Welcome to Sparking Success with Aaron Opalewski. Aaron brings you conversations that spark innovation, cultivate leadership skills, and pave the way for your business success. In each episode, we delve into the dynamic world of business and leadership, exploring strategies, insights, and success stories that fuel your professional journey.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Sparking Success. Today, I have my friend, Mena, on the podcast, and this is going to be fun because, I've had the honor of being on Ben's podcast, and I'm a frequent listener of his podcast. But today we get to do this on the inverse, and I am going to interview Ben. So a quick little intro on him. He is the founder of Select Source Solutions. They specialize in recruiting and consulting in the government contracting sector. He's also the host of the Elite Recruiter podcast, which receives about 15,000 downloads a month. And as I just said, I contribute to those downloads. It's an awesome show. I think in general, but I'm in the recruiting industry, right, and workforce solutions. So for anyone that's in that industry, Ben's just bringing on people from all different parts of the industry, the supplier side when it comes to like tax and tools. I think a lot of different perspectives. I find myself listening to them and learning and hearing some of my friends on there, which is awesome. Being on it was great. And hopefully we're going to do that again soon. I know we've had some scheduling things, but here we are today. And then also some different perspectives that sometimes I listen to and I'm like, well, I don't know if I agree with that or not, but that's interesting to hear. And I think that's good. You want to have your own thoughts be challenged. So, this is the person that's put that all together. It's an amazing show. And hopefully I can do a good job on the other side here today. So welcome, Ben.
Thank you so much. It's so weird being on the other side, just because I'm the one that's typically just asking the question. So thank you so much. And if you guys want a good laugh, Aaron was episode 7 back in 2021. I think I was the only listener for the first 25 episodes. Maybe Aaron heard himself. So maybe there was 2 downloads for that episode, but I reached out to him on Instagram. Somebody told me about him, and I was so grateful that he took the opportunity to share. And it's kind of cool, hearing the stories of people that have listened to Aaron and the impact of listening to Aaron and how it's affected their business and affected their career.
I didn't realize that was number 7. Wow. How many are you at now?
I think 163 just went live yesterday.
That's awesome, man. Congrats. Okay. Well, we'll get into that. But I wanted to start just by asking, how did you get into the government contracting space? I know you started at Aerotech, and maybe you can tell us about that, but how did you get into that sector?
So if you want a good laugh, when I started at Aerotech, I got started in construction management headhunting. So it was a brand new division. They're like, you got to go. And about 3 months in, around that time, I actually still didn't even make a single placement. They sat me down and they're like, somebody actually pulled me into the office and just kind of grabbed me. I was like, everybody wants to get rid of you because you suck at recruiting.
Ouch.
Yeah. That's exactly how I took it. Went home, probably drank a bottle of wine or something like that. And the next day I actually, Aerotech did this thing every Wednesday. They sent out this list of the top 10 people in every industry. So during my lunchtime and after hours, I just started cold calling them. I'm like, what are you doing? I don't know how you guys are doing this. I'm hitting all my reps. They told me the only reason why they didn't get rid of me was because I was hitting the activity numbers. It wasn't like I was doing 30 calls or 20 calls. I'd be here's my 75 call list. Here's my, I did 80 today.
Yeah.
And so I started having these conversations after hours and during lunch and it just helped me reframe how I was doing the activity and how I was doing the work. And that took me to being showing up on that list for probably the good rest of most of the time I was there still. But so moved into aviation. And one of the things I wanted to do was actually government contracting. So I started, and government contracting wasn't in my office. So I actually started cold calling some of the account managers in other offices, asking to work on their recs. And my account manager is like, you can't do that. You have to work on my stuff.
Work on my stuff.
Yeah, you have to work on my stuff. And I'm like, well, okay, I'll do that from 8 to 6. So typically after 6 p.m. and on the weekends, I would start working on all these other government contracting stuff because I wanted to build out my book of business and my experience in that space. So yeah, it was like getting into government contracting was something that I wanted to do. I focused on doing, and I spent a lot of time after hours doing that too.
Wow. I didn't know that's how you got into it. That's one of the reasons I wanted to ask. I was just curious. But it's funny because, we both worked at Aerotech, and I was on the engineering side, product engineering. And, after 5 o'clock, I'd work on getting my engineering subs for the day. And then I would work on skilled trades at night and on the weekends and make placements on that. And, when I ended up leaving Aerotech, we got into skilled trades, recruiting and light industrial recruiting to start. So I don't know, just very similar. That's interesting.
I mean, it's one of those things like when you get started in the recruiting space, most of the time you don't get to choose your niche. You're given the niche, and you have to go do the work. Like you have to go build your recruiting book of business with that. But if you want to make a change, it's those after hours, it's those weekends where you get to like really spend time designing the future that you want to go.
Totally agree. Do you find, because I found it empowering to be kind of pushed into something, you know nothing about it, and you're forced to learn through action, through reps, through practice. I love to hear that you also like called top performers and stuff. I just think that's awesome because it's like all the effort was there. We have a core value: be humble, crave improvement, and I just see that like all over that situation. But I just getting on the other side of that and starting to learn to make engineering placements, for me, it was like, man, it made me feel like so much better about myself as a person. Like, man, I knew nothing about this. And look, I don't have it all figured out, but I've been able to figure this out and become productive on this. That's just pretty cool. So I don't find similar.
Definitely similar. It was like, one of the things like in recruiting, you get a chance to learn about all these different skill sets and all these different businesses and like the impact that you have and like all these like careers and what they do. But at the same time, you also become an expert in people.
Yeah, I agree. And the different sectors, just how people kind of can act different too, is just, you learn a lot about people. So,
oh yeah, totally.
Yeah, it's well said. So what are you seeing now, like in the government contracting space? What are you seeing right now? I know some sectors are down, some sectors are hot. That's working out pretty well for us right now overall because we're in enough sectors. But like auto, we're in Detroit. Auto is, some areas are rocking and rolling and some are kind of on pause or slower, as can happen in an election year. But what are you seeing on the government side right now?
So I know most of the people in recruiting had the most amazing 2022. Like it just gangbuster, like, people are calling you, like you didn't have to do like the hard work that it takes to actually do recruiting to get the new business.
Yeah.
We didn't really have that in 2022. Like the thing about government contracting is it's pretty steady. And like,
Yep.
we had our book of business, we had our, referrals coming in. But when 2023 happened, weirdly enough, like 2023 was a great year for us.
Yeah.
But here's one of the things. Most of the time, the government pays their bills.
That is true. I found that to be true in the stuff that we do in the government and defense sector. So knock on wood, hope that if they're not, we're probably all in more trouble than we realize.
Yeah, and it's one of those things, like the way government contracting is set up, and really government contracting is really just super complex staffing companies. That's what most of government contractors are. Like it's just super complex, and there's so many more hoops they have to go through. But all this, like most of the way the proposals and it's set up is everything's on a 5-year structure.
Yep.
So, the proposal came out 3 years ago. Guess what? The government's still funding it. So, it doesn't have like the gigantic ups and downs. Well, it does have ups and like major ups and major downs. Like if we go into war, like if we're going into a large scale war, way more money is going to be spent. We have the gigantic ups, like going into Afghanistan and Iraq. Like I remember the heydays of that, which was just crazy. But, scaling down and leaving a war, that's where you see like the drawdown and that's where you see stuff. But over the past few years, with the ups and downs of the economy, government contracting has pretty much stayed steady.
Yeah, you probably see the same thing that we do, and I don't really think we cross paths on this because there's so much within that niche that can be done. But um, specifically on the technical side, right? Because technical compensation rates move quite a bit. So your software engineers, your electrical, mechanical engineers, systems engineers, like for us, if we get deep into those project cycles, like the third, fourth year, it gets harder and harder to staff because, especially if there's hot industries around that area. Like in 22, our government stuff was harder for us to place on than it is at the moment because auto was on fire around here, and we're deep. If you're deeper into those contracts, they're not always priced the best on the back end to keep up with rates rising. And then you just look at what happened over the last couple of years with that in general, and I think that made it even more challenging. I feel like we're on the other side of that now, but
We are, and the thing about government contracts is you like once they bid the rate and once they win it, most companies bid to win, not bid to fill.
yeah,
So like we're coming in behind the scenes, like, hey, you guys, who wrote these numbers? Yeah, that's not fillable. Like
they're like,
we
we got it. Now it's the staffing company's problem.
yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, like during 2022, like it was the hardest point in time, I think, was to work on the highly cleared, like the NSA, the CIA positions, because those used to be like Willy Wonka's golden ticket when it comes to how much money they paid. And now you got Amazon and AWS coming in paying like 50% more and they can work remote. They're like, why do I want to go into a skiff every day? Why do I want my security clearance? Why do I want all this stuff? So, but we're starting to see like everything coming back, and with all the tech layoffs, that people are like, hey, government contracting,
Yeah.
we like you again.
Yeah. It's like, okay, maybe I should revisit that, or, maybe I was thinking about that in the wrong way. So I feel like, I mean, things definitely evolve and are evolving at a very fast pace. And I'm interested to talk to you more about that. But like some of these cycles definitely still find their way of repeating themselves in the different industries and how people want to kind of enter, exit them, or end up re-entering them. So
I mean,
lessons within that.
you've been through so many cycles. I've been through so many cycles. It's one of the things I've definitely seen with you is how like you've also diversified your business and your team. So that way, while one cycle is like going gangbusters, you still have all these different parts of the business. So that way, like you are still like your team is still set up for success.
Yeah, and I think that's for us, it's other things too. It's effort, it's culture, it's definitely our people and our team. I'm not taking away from that at all because it's definitely not about me. But from a strategy component, having these different areas that we focus in, and now a portfolio of companies that does that as well. That's a big part of why this year we can have some things kind of stagnant or down, but we're still up 11%, coming into the halfway mark of the year. And that's not very sexy number for me to say this year. It's the truth. So it just is what it is. But we've stacked that on, over the last couple years, we more than 100% growth since 21. It's like, I'm looking at this like, hey, if this is where we're at right now, and some of the portions of the industry are down 20 to 30%, like we're in the water, we're going to catch the wave on some of this stuff as it comes back in some of our like highest performing sectors. So we'll see how that goes. Again, different opinions on this stuff. I listened to your last couple podcasts, and you know the last one with the AI guy, I definitely learning. We're trying out tools. I have a different point of view on some of that stuff, but he's focused in that area, and I would expect him to maybe be heavy, and, I try and listen to different point of views, even if I don't, maybe see it exactly the same way. And I also I don't know for sure on stuff either. I'm just going to, bet on what we're going to bet on. We'll see what happens.
I mean, I think that's one of the biggest things is like making sure that you're betting on yourself and then putting in the work behind it. Even with like, we can talk about AI later, but even like where AI is going to have its impacts, there's going to be a bunch of places where AI isn't going to be able to have the impact. And that's where I think people can make those moves and make even more money with a little bit of like AI tool back end. But yeah, like there's things that AI is going to be able to do. There's big companies are going to focus on AI, but guess what? Most of the American business is built on small companies that aren't going to have these $1 million, language models, being able to do all these magical things. And that's where we can still win as recruiters.
Yeah, that's what, I think that, where I sit on it right now is in what we're trying to coach to our teams. Um, in some instances better than not, but like what's cool is we get to we're piloting different things, and some, like, instead of just saying, oh, one person didn't use this, it doesn't work, we'll try it with different people, and we're like learning different things that way. But our main, call it like preaching point, I guess, on this is like, hey, like you got to continue to learn the art of recruiting and the nuanced stuff that, again, I'm not going to say that AI won't be able to do it at some point, but I don't see it within the tools right now. I know they're fast evolving, and I'm like, you're one of the resources that I go to on this, and I'm not signed up for the AI Summit yet, but I'll make sure that either I'm on it or someone from our team will be. Um, but it's just like, man, there's parts of this, like, use these as a tool, and then like this is why, like, you can't be transactional. Like the transactional recruiter, I believe, will get smoked.
Oh,
We'll
yes.
see on the rest, but I think that much is clear. Like if your skill set is just kind of funneling stuff through, there's already some pretty good tools in that realm right now.
I had a conversation with like an AI recruiting specialist yesterday morning, and he said that he was in conversation with a company that sends 5 million emails per month. And out of that 5 million emails, they only book 75 meetings. But here's the thing. The relations, people that go like hard on relationships, like you can use AI to help like build, like, do all the busy work. But the people that are going hard on the relationships right now with the way the economy is, they're the ones that are winning the work. They're the ones that are winning the business. They're the ones that are making placements. And, it's going to be probably a decade before your AI talks to my AI. But at that point, nobody's going to have a job if we ever hit that point.
I guess we're just gonna watch it as it goes. So I want to talk to you about the podcast because I didn't realize I was on the 7th episode, but I've been, ever since I've been on, I've been a fan. I've been subscribed. I've been listening. Again, I really do learn a lot from it because you just bring so many people in with different perspectives, and I think it's great what you're doing. Um, when you started it out, was it focused on like branding, or like what was your thought process on starting the podcast, and how's it evolved?
So here's the problem. I use this thing called a dumb idea, and I talk about this all the time. Where you have this idea that's stuck in the back of your head that it's bugging you and bugging you until you actually go do it. And the idea could work. The idea can't, maybe doesn't work. Maybe it crashes and burns. But you have to go actually do it to free yourself and get that off your shoulders. And that's really what the podcast was just this idea that was bugging me. And it was, during COVID time, nobody was like talking to each other. Like the world was just crazy. And like, that's kind of like where it originally started. It was like, hey, I wanted a chance to like highlight my friends, highlight what's going on, have conversations again, since technically I can't really see people for a short amount of time. And it's just that dumb idea has kind of evolved into a place where I get messages on a weekly basis about like the impact of some of the stories and the impact of some of the guests that share, and how it's changed their recruiting career, how it's like helped them make more placements. And, I don't laugh at this. Like, I know tons of people have like podcasts and big sales funnels and all this other stuff that going into it. I still don't know what I'm going to do with this podcast, but I'm having fun. I call this like my happy hour, but I enjoy the impact that it's making, because the recruiting world, there's so many different ways to do the business. There's so many different ways to win. There's so many different approaches. And maybe what works for Aaron doesn't work for somebody else, but they can figure out a way that they can be successful themselves.
Yes. Yeah, Man, I got to tell you, like, I think one of the things that makes it work is that you're just a genuine guy. You know, as I, from being on it, from following you on social, from listening, like you have a general interest in people. Yes, good questions. And, you can feel when, like, I've been on enough podcasts or I listen to enough, and there's other good people that are good interviewers. They're good on podcasts. They have good shows, but you can tell when someone's like not completely interested in what's going on. And I listen to your thing and I'm like, man, he asks in a versatile way, within the industry. He asks really good questions that I think are insightful. I think he does his prep, which I always appreciate in people. And I just think he genuinely wants to learn. And I think that's a big part of what makes the show cool. So
I,
kudos to you, man.
you have it's thank you for that. It's amazing, like how much I get out of the guests and how much I learn on it, like literally a daily and a weekly basis. It's just the conversations that I have and the people that I get to meet and the relationships I get to have. Like it's, I think podcasting is a very powerful thing that you could do. And I love that. Like when you started yours, I was like, yes, I'm like more people need to hear Aaron. But it's the cool part is the relationships that you build behind the scenes.
Yeah. Well, I'm trying to ask everyone this question that's in the recruiting space. I'm probably most excited to ask you this question, and it's for that reason, because you get such a unique perspective, having all these different guests on, doing the research on them, learning from them, like you said. But where do you see the industry going right now? I guess as a whole, more than just your sector.
I mean, I AI is like everybody's talking about AI. Like AI is going to have a huge impact. I think it's going to take a lot of like the transactional recruiters and I'd say about half the TA teams are going to be eliminated. I think the sourcing function as a job is going to be killed. I think it's going to be turned into like a recruiting engineer position where you're dealing with data. But I think the niche businesses and the executive recruiting, I think is going to be some of the biggest places where like you could still build a business and still have a lot of success. And it is going to be because of those relationships. It is going to be because people buy from people. The frontline engineers and like some of the frontline workers, if if that gets automated, cool. But there's still going to be so much opportunity. And I think like up until the place where AI makes those huge impacts, I think there's a massive opportunity. We're at probably about a 2 to 3 year window of the recruiting teams that utilize AI can probably like 2 or 3x what they're doing with smaller teams.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna make some pretty big bets on on some of this stuff, and we're gonna bet on people um, without disregarding the tools and technology. Like that's my goal, and that's where I'd grade us at about a 50%. That's not very good, but I'm a tough grader of this on like implementing tools that we're testing right now. Um, and if I told you 100%, I would be scared, of like I want to be a really tough grader on that, because I do think we're trying some stuff out. We've seen some wins. We've seen that, like, man, like this, because we run a couple different recruiting styles. So like MetaView's one that we're using, just to drop one specifically. And we got 3 people that right now are using it really well. And then I don't know, 67 that aren't, So but we're trying to learn like what we're doing. And I actually, as I was listening to your last podcast, I'm like, I need to get this on a reoccurring, because we set these 3 people up, like we beta tested it with everybody. And then we bought the tool for people that were actually using it. And then we cut that down a little bit based on performance. But once we got there, we asked for initial feedback from those people, and then we kind of stopped. And I'm like, man, we gotta keep doing that to keep learning. Like we're testing some other tools as well, but that seems to be the one that we've had the most success with. However, I know you're familiar with it. Like our knock is our people aren't always at their desk, like on the phone, and like we're doing it wrong. Like when they hop on their cell phone in the car and they get on a call, like they can't get their MetaView set up to like record like the screen basically.
And that's like one of the biggest pain points that I have with some of the platforms. I wish it would just like on the back end, like integrate and just like automatically be able to pull my data, pull my phone calls, do that kind of stuff. And I think that's some of the stuff that we're going to see moving forward. But, I think
that's $1 billion idea for somebody. So,
I mean, I was talking with, there's a company, I forget the name of them, where it actually like takes the phone calls. I think they got bought by, a large like ATS company recently, but they actually take the conversation and automatically updates your ATS with the notes. So like there's stuff coming. Like I think we're still kind of like the bit of the early stage, and that's like one of the reasons why I'm doing the AI summit is just like a chance for, hey, who likes to go through a sales cycle? So why I'm trying to have some like AI speakers, but also have a chance to like see some of these AI tools in action without having to go through the full sales cycle.
I like it. Yeah,
but
those are painful for me. But I don't do a lot of them directly. But I get, I get to be the final evaluator on some of them, and it's not my favorite thing.
Like there's a fun one that, and this is why I think like the engineering recruiter is going to be kind of like a future job description, kind of like as the sourcer dies off. Like there's a company called Clay that is just like, you can literally like integrate that, like take a list that you have from like, LinkedIn Sales Navigator, throw it into Clay with a combination of like Claude. It writes way better personalized messages using all the data points they have than I could possibly spend the next like day or two like doing in like seconds. And then you can even like add it into like a video tool with SenseSpark, which kind of uses AI of your video of yourself talking. And I right now use that for like a huge increase in response rates. Because I mean, here's the thing: like everybody's sending emails, everybody knows that they're in a job campaign, everybody knows that they're, XYZ. Like during the day, like in my space, I really can't call people during the day because they're sitting in a skiff and don't have access to their phones. So like you got to use the tools, but at the same time, like I think the skill set of recruiting, the art of recruiting, is going to be needed, and the art of relationships is going to be needed more than ever. And that's why, like, I have you coming on as a speaker for the Recruiting Growth Summit, finish the year strong, where like I'm bringing in some of my favorite speakers, and we're like the art of recruiting, the art of doing the work, the art of every single thing that impacts recruiting. Like that's the important thing. That learn the AI tools, but spend 70 to 80% of your time learning this.
Yes,
and that's what's going to make you the most money.
That's how I see it. I think I'll go behind the curtain, for a minute, and like, man, you must be reading my mind, or you got some new tool I don't know about, but because we haven't talked about what I'm going to speak on exactly yet, but you hit the nail pretty much on the head. So like, hey, like I want to go through 4 principal stuff that you should be looking at daily, weekly, and like dial into that and spend most of your time on that. And if you don't have that in check, or you're not hitting the right fulfillment rates to that, like, okay, you got work to do. And if you don't track those things, you need to be, and just go through that while not ignoring, like use these things to get you to these end results, but don't like think you're going to get around doing any of the work. Because I think we're going to, at least right now, we're eating people's lunch that like, it's not 22 where it's like, oh, I can just throw out, some, like I got all this stuff coming inbound, you got to mix some cold outreach in, and I don't want to give it all away, but like, we'll be going through some of that stuff. So,
I mean, it's one of the reasons why I wanted to invite you. One, I had full faith and trust in you and the impact that you have on recruiters. Like, your shit, but on top of that, knowing your shit, you're always humble. And I've seen you like over the years since I've been following you and known you, like you constantly give. And I was just, hey, let me give you another platform to share.
Yeah. So let's talk about the summits. I think it was last week I saw you post on the AI one, but so you're doing 2 summits before the end of the year?
2 summits before the end of the year. The main one I'm focusing on is actually not the AI one. The AI one is like everybody talks about AI, but I want to equip people with tools and like so that way they know what's going on. But the big one is it's finish the year strong, and it is a power packed week. It's going to be free to watch. Right now, replays is only like $99, but it is literally going to be a $10,000 masterclass of some of the best in the recruiting industry, sharing about how to get ahead, sharing how to win and finish the rest of the year. Who cares what Q1, Q2, and Q3 looked like? If you can put all your effort into Q4, you can make 2024 your best year yet. And my goal is to have the best speakers in the industry sharing the best knowledge they have to set you up for success.
Yeah, I've seen the speaker list. I have the, honor to know some of them. I can get to work, with one of them, and a couple are relatively, close buddies of mine as well. And I mean, there's going to be you could take what you learned and turn it into hundreds of millions of dollars of revenue. I can promise you that. Just doing the math on who's in the room, and I don't know exactly what they're going to share, but I know, just with what we're going to go through, like if you execute on those things well, it will set you up for success in this industry to do very well. Whether you're uh, a one person like solo situation, you have a small team, a growing team, like there's some core principle stuff that you want to get down, and then like yes, if you're growing your team, you scale it, right? But there's going to be the fact that you're putting that together, it's going to be good, man. Like if people don't listen, they're missing out.
It is going to be impactful. And if you want a good laugh, that was another like one of those dumb ideas. I was on a run one day and it just hit me at I think like mile 1 and I just couldn't get it out of my head for like a good like 2-3 weeks. I was like, I need to pull some people together. I need to you know, I have the podcast, people listen to the podcast, but I need to pull some people together to help people win, help recruiters like level up, help them, finish the year strong. And that's really where it came about. And just the first one, I'm so grateful for. If you want a good laugh, I would have been happy if 25 to 50 people signed up. And it ended up being like about 650. And like
It's amazing.
we're finishing the year strong in September. I think I like doubled the speaker load. So like it's a power packed event that I think could really change somebody's life.
I know for a fact it can. Absolutely. We're in an industry, I think it's fair to say, has changed both of our lives. And for me, that's why I'm passionate about it, right? Because I know that in an industry that's given me like so much, like if you'll do the fundamental things that will bring you success, like not anyone can do it, right? But if you have gift to talk to people, if you can listen to people, if you have if it fills you up to see people do well, and at the same time you're competitive and can deal with rejection, man, like you can do amazing things in this industry. So I'm super passionate about it and about teaching it to people.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Registration's free. If you want to go VIP and get a copy of the replays, it's like $99 right now, which is an absolute steal. But I want to make it accessible for people. Accessible
Totally worth. Like that's crazy. Like you could charge. I'm. It's all what someone puts into it. But you could charge $99,000 for that, and like there'll be that much information where that would be a very, very good investment. Giving it away for $99, yeah. I mean, everyone. We don't recoil everything on our mind. Like you hear something good, you got to go back and listen to it. Like that's a steal.
I think it's going to go up to like 150 during the event and like 299 at the end of the event, which is still like pennies on the dollar in the information.
Yes.
I did the first one. If you want a good laugh, I did the first one. I made it like $49 and then 99 after. And I had multiple people call me up afterwards and they're just like, "You're an idiot." Right? I was like, I don't know. I was just trying to make it accessible. Like, I'm not an event person. I'm not like, I'm just taking an idea and just running with it. I'm not like an event expert.
Yeah.
So
I think my comment to that would be, one, you're not doing it, for that reason, right? And then, you know, hey man, we're learning on stuff. That's your first one, right? Like, you, there's a bigger picture to what that could become, and like, you don't always have to make all this money on everything, like right on the first wave of it, right? Like, and frankly, when people do that, it's usually a flash in the pan, So I think you're doing it the right way, and uh, you know, I also know it's a steal for people at those price points. So, but just like look how this thing's evolving for you, man. Like you just said it earlier. Like I didn't have this like master plan or anything like that. I just wanted to be a good connector of people and get people talking in the industry. And um, it's exciting to watch this thing continue to evolve for you. And it just comes back to you being a genuine guy.
And like it's one of the things, like if you have an idea, like don't be afraid to try it out. Don't be afraid to run with it. Like I call them dumb ideas all the time, and guess what? Some of them don't work. Some of them do work, but you never know where an idea can completely change the direction of your life.
Love it. Okay, I'm going to change up the direction for this last question. Another selfish question. I'm not a huge wine drinker, but I will partake every now and then. I got to ask you, what's your favorite wine and why?
So I know it's hard for you to drink in between your hard 75s. I kudos to you. That's definitely hard, but I'm a huge fan of left bank Bordeaux's.
Okay.
Give me like a good aged left bank, and I am absolutely in love. Like we also love Bordeaux so much that we got married in Bordeaux, France. We've taken our son when he was 5 months. We spent about 2 weeks in Bordeaux, France. Like it's just the wine is like it's heavy, it's structure. It's art in a bottle. Every single winemaker is different. Every single plot of land is different. It's not like the American crappy wine. If you buy any wine in a grocery store in America, it's full of shit.
Fair enough.
It's full of chemicals. It's horrible. Don't ever touch
Yeah.
it. It's bait drink that night. But like the structure and the art that goes inside of a good Bordeaux bottle, like we probably have about 10 to 15 cases sitting in wine storage in DC that we
Wow.
probably won't touch for another 2 decades.
Wow.
And
So where do you get it from if you don't get it at the grocery store?
Typically like specialized wine stores, or
Okay.
when we go overseas, we buy wine and bring it back.
That's awesome, man. Okay. Well, I did it right. Like we will get like a couple bottles from like Whole Foods or something like that, like every now and then, just so we have some in there for guests and stuff like that. But when I when we first moved in, we have a wine rack, and I went to an actual wine store, so it tells me I probably got at least a couple good bottles in there.
Oh
So
yeah.
I'll
I mean,
have to shoot you a screenshot at some point, and you'll be like, "Nope, those all suck."
I mean, the coolest thing about that is like what I love is the story that goes behind the bottle.
Okay.
It's like a good bottle of wine is almost like an adventure where they talk about the winemaker, they talk about the pot of land, they talk about what's going in and like all the work that happens to make that one bottle.
Yeah.
And that's where and you can and it's one of the things like in recruiting and in sales, the storytelling process,
Yeah.
and how we talk about like the job and how we storytell the candidate. It increases the experience that you have or that our client has with our people. It's the
Yes.
same thing with wine.
Yeah. Well, that's what I was just listening to you, and I'm like, okay, so this is why I'm betting on people in the recruiting industry still, because there's like, I would be like the transactional wine, person that will get smoked, right? But like you're just like at this whole nother gear, right? And so when I look at like what we're trying to teach recruiters, it's like, man, I want them to have deep, deep, deep knowledge of whether it be the sector, how to, communicate with someone, like the different points in the process, the client like there's this art to it, right? And like like there's an art to everything. I think that's what makes life cool. It's where you focus, and it's like that's what we're trying to do is dial in a recruiter, just like Ben knows his wine. He knows recruiting too, but like I mean, you could just probably educate me all day, on this stuff. It's like recruiting is the same way to someone that's, just kind of like sourcing and, oh, they applied and oh yeah, you interested in this? Like, I'll send you over and we'll see what happens. Like, it's not the same thing.
I mean, think about this. Like when a recruiter does their first like client visit and sees the impact that if they hire somebody for that team and what that person's going to do for the company. It's like the same thing like, we have with wine. Like it's like when you go to Bordeaux and you travel to France and you see the vineyards, like, oh, now I understand it.
Yes.
But yeah, like think about
I mean, I haven't done that, but I can totally relate to you get this like click moment when you're physically in there with the client, you see what's going on, you see what they're making or doing every day, right down to like, hey, like explaining to candidates like, hey, you're going to go through this door, you're going to talk to this person, hey, turn left here instead of like all these little nuanced things, because like at the end of the day, like it's about experience and we're making people feel comfortable in an uncomfortable situation. And so these little things matter.
Yep. And it's like if you're a recruiter, get a chance to go see some of the things that you're doing. Get a chance to go spend time with the clients. And right now, like, one of the biggest ways that recruiters are winning is by showing up in person.
Yes. Yes.
Like clients want FaceTime now.
It's different. Yep. Okay. Well, Ben, thanks so much, man. I appreciate you coming on. I can't wait for the Growth Summit. Thanks for asking me to be a part of it. Um, anything else you want to share with the audience before we close it out?
Definitely, like the AI Summit's going to be awesome. Get a chance to see some of those demos without going through the sales cycle. Hear about what's happening and changing the AI game, because I think it's going to have a huge impact on recruiting in the next like 7 years. But the most important thing is getting yourself around a group of recruiters that are just absolutely crushing it. Get a chance to like you are the environment that you put yourself in. And here's the thing: if you don't have those 5 people that you can go around and hang out with, like in real life, you can do that virtually.
Yes.
You can create your virtual circle, and one of the ways to do that is by going to the Finish Your Strong Summit. It is going to be a power packed. I'm like, I think it's going to be like easy $10,000 worth of information that can really just accelerate your career and completely change your life. And I'm so excited about bringing these people together just for that.
Awesome, man. There's absolutely power in proximity. And so go to the summit. All right, everyone. Thank you for listening. If you found this impactful, please like, share it, subscribe. Make sure you check out Ben's podcast if you don't already. But if you're listening to this and you're in the recruiting space, you probably already are. But if you haven't, you've been under a rock, go check out the Elite Recruiter podcast. Thanks, Ben. Thank you, everyone, and have a great day.